The Druid is a savage shapeshifter, fluidly transforming between forms of a powerful bear or a vicious werewolf, all while commanding the power of earth, wind, and storm, unleashing nature's wrath to a devastating effect. They have a well-rounded set of melee and range skills that specialize in dealing damage of physical, lightning, and poison. All of these are fueled by spirit, which is generated from basic skills. Now, when it comes to strengths, the Druid has a few. They do have decent burst damage, especially when spamming skills like landslide against stunned enemies, but unfortunately, this isn't always sustainable due to the high spirit cost. They have strong defensive capabilities by becoming unstoppable, healing large amounts of health, and building up Fortify to help protect against damage. So if played correctly, the Druid can truly take a beating. Then they also have damage versatility. The Druid has lots of ways to deal damage in their toolkit. You can summon companions like wolves, vines, and crows. You can shapeshift into a bear or a werewolf, or you can cast nature magic to let the power of nature do damage for you. Now, if you're someone who likes to change things up, the Druid is a decent pick. You'll be able to kind of mix and match these as you see fit. But let's talk about some of the weaknesses the Druid has. So one, they're incredibly setup dependent. The Druid is much more dependent on creating situations in which they can flourish to maximize their potential. Without it, their damage is wildly inconsistent and just not reliable. So for instance, you need to apply Immobilize and Stun to groups of enemies to maximize your landslide damage. This is due to landslide gaining increased critical chance against immobile or stunned enemies. And other skills kind of follow suit. You need to have a good setup in order to truly take advantage of it. Now, Druids are also super immobile. They are very stagnant. They have two skills that they can use for mobility that are Shred and Trample, but again, they aren't super reliable. Trample has a very long cooldown, and Shred requires a target that you need to leap towards. So that's it for strengths and weaknesses. Let's talk about what makes a Druid unique, and that's the Spirit Boon system. So at level 15, you're going to automatically start the quest, Spirits of the Lost Grove, for you to complete. Now, once you do, you're going to unlock the Spirit Boon system. And at level 15, you'll also start seeing spirit offerings drop from slain enemies, and these offerings can be used to then unlock those boons that you just saw. Now, these spirit boons themselves are buffs, and they're divided up into 4 categories. First, you have the Deer. This is going to allow you to do things like gain thorns, increase maximum spirit, take less damage from elites, and reduce the duration of crowd control effects. Next, we have Eagle. This is going to increase your crit strike chance, gain maximum life, increase your attack speed, and increase your crit damage. Wolf is going to have a lot of lucky hit type stuff. So first, you'll have a lucky hit that crits have a chance to reset cooldowns of companion skills. The next lucky hit is going to give damage a chance to restore spirit. Then you can fortify for a portion of your max life whenever you use a defensive skill, and you can extend the duration of ultimate skills. For Snake's pretty interesting. There's quite a bit packed in here. So the first one is every 10th kill will cause your next Earth skill to overpower. Then we have a lucky hit that dealing lightning damage has a chance to cause the target to discharge, dealing damage to surrounding enemies. Critical strikes with shapeshifting skills can heal you. And we have another lucky hit that's going to cause nature magic skills to have a chance to reduce the cooldown of your ultimate. So as you can see, these boons are incredibly great, and I think it would have been really awesome to get our hands on these during the beta, but we will have to wait till launch to see how they work. Now, the Wolf and Snake are much more specific, while the Deer and Eagle are more general, and that might be because they cost less offerings to unlock, but again, that's just a guess. Okay, so let's keep things moving and let's talk about shapeshifting next. So, shapeshifting in Diablo 4 is not a permanent action or something that is under direct control. Instead, you're going to shapeshift depending on the skill that's used. So for instance, if you use the skill Maul, you'll shapeshift into a bear, use the skill, remain in bear form for a few seconds, and then return back to human form. The same goes for any skills that shift you into a werewolf. Now, there are ways you can permanently stay in a form by using legendary effects. We did get confirmation of that from Riker during his endgame playtest recap. But if you're someone who didn't play either of the betas, just knowing that shifting isn't permanent without specific items is something that you might want to know going into it, especially if you're going in thinking, I'm going to be a werewolf all the time as a druid. That just isn't possible without specific items. So next, let's touch on attributes and what these bring to the table for the Druid. So 1, we have strength. This provides armor at a 1-to-1 ratio per point, so this will help buff up your defense. Intelligence is going to provide boosts to resists and resource generation at a rate of 5% and 10% per 100 points, respectively. Willpower is going to increase skill damage and healing received by 10% for every 100 points, and overpower damage will be increased by 25% per 100 points. And lastly, we have dexterity. This is going to increase your dodge chance by 2.5% per 100 points. So out of these, willpower is the main attribute that we want. It increases damage, it gives us increased healing received, and it provides more overpower damage, which is useful since druids have some good overpower synergy. So please keep this in mind as you work towards endgame with the druid. You start unlocking Paragon board tiles, maximize these as much as you can. Now, intelligence is probably the least useful out of all of them. It's pretty low in value, but obviously having resist and resource generation is still nice, but comparatively, I would prioritize willpower and strength over intelligence. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's talk about skills. What does the druid use on the battlefield? Your skills are split into 6 different categories. First, you have your basic skills. These are zero-cost skills that regenerate spirit and will typically apply a debuff to the target. So, for example, we have Earth Spike, Wind Shear, Storm Strike, Claw, and Maul. Now, while you'll be able to spam these, they're not your primary damage dealer. Those are going to be your core skills. So here we have Lightning Storm, Tornado, Pulverize, Shred, and Landslide. These ones are going to cost a lot of spirit, but they're going to deal significantly more damage than your basic skills. Typically, these are the ones you want to sort of build around, as they're going to be your primary driver for your build and for your rotation. Next, you have your defensive skills. These are going to greatly boost your defensive capabilities as a druid. We have Earthen Bulwark, Cyclone Armor, Blood Howl, and Debilitating Roar. Next are your companion skills. So if you want friends on the battlefield with you, you can summon ravens, a poison creeper, and wolves. Each of these have a passive and an active effect. So whenever you cast the spell or you originally summon them, you can cast the spell again to do something. So for your wolves, it'll direct your wolves to focus on an enemy. Poison creeper will cause vines to strangle all surrounding enemies, and ravens will swarm a target area, dealing significant damage. Next are your wrath skills. These are skills that have medium cooldowns and they deal a large amount of damage in an area. So we have Hurricane, Boulder, we have Rabies, and we have Trample. And as you can see, we're picking up more and more passives as we get further down the tree. Next, we have our ultimate skills. These have extremely long cooldowns, but they're very, very powerful. So you want to use them wisely in order to get the most out of each one of them. Here we have Petrify, we have Cataclysm, Lacerate, and Grizzly Rage. And again, we see more passives here that are going to help sort of define the playstyle that you're after. And then at the very end, we have our ultimate passives. And both sets of the ultimate skills and ultimate passives, you can only choose one. So you want to make sure to pick the one that best fits whatever you're after here. If you pick Petrify, you will not be able to pick either of these other 3. If I pick Perfect Storm, I won't be able to select any of these other ones here. So making sure to select the right one is going to be key. Now, you can always go back, refund that point, and switch it at any point in time, so don't feel like you're truly locked in, but don't go into this expecting I'll be able to grab Petrify and Cataclysm and just be an absolute force. That's not the way this thing works. So guys, overall, the Druid is a class that brings a lot of versatility to the table, whether it's shape-shifting, unleashing the elements, or commanding pets to creatively solve any sort of problem that you run into. This class seems to have something for everyone. So what do you guys think? Is the Druid for you? Do you think this is going to be a strong class at the beginning? Let me know in the comment section below. But as always, if you like Diablo content, please like and subscribe. This has been Vulkan, and I'll talk to you guys next time.